About O.J. Simpson testifying.
And some of the women who accused Bob Packwood of sexual misconduct are now speaking out. News 4 is next.
You're on News 4, Colorado's news channel. Alan Genet, Kathy Walsh, Glenn Gerber, and Gary Miller. This is News 4 Tonight.
It was too much Emmett and not enough Elway during today's Broncos game. The Cowboys lived up to their reputation as the best team in the NFL. And Gary Miller joins us now with the play of the game.
I guess, Kathy, when you come right down to it, that Dion Derby wasn't all that much of a distraction in Dallas, as the players complained all week. Dallas is about as good as it gets in the NFL. They certainly looked the part today. Cowboys beat the Broncos 31-21, handing Mike Shanahan his first loss as head coach here. Key moment in the third. Cowboys up 21-14. They say the heck with a field goal on 4th and 1. And they give it to Emmett. Barry Switzer knows he made the right call. The drive continued a couple of minutes later. Early in the fourth, they wrap up the drive as Emmitt Smith gets the clinching touchdown. Cowboys do a job on the Broncos, 31-21.
When you play a good team, a great team, and that's what they are. They're a great football team. The more mistakes you make, you're not going to beat them. I mean, we can't turn the ball over. I mean, we had to play a flawless ball game in order to beat Dallas, and we were far from that today.
We have much more on the Broncos coming up later in sports. There is, however, big news tonight from Nebraska. Husker star running back Lawrence Phillips, one of the best collegiate players in the nation, was arrested, and Coach Tom Osborne has thrown him off the team. Phillips was great on the field yesterday, scored 4 touchdowns, 206 yards rushing. The Huskers routing Michigan State. But police in Lincoln say Phillips assaulted an ex-girlfriend late last night. She was not seriously hurt. Phillips has had other legal problems during his days at Nebraska. This apparently the last straw. Lawrence Phillips, one of Nebraska's brightest stars, no longer a member of the Husker football team. We'll have more on that and a great Rockies win later in sports.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Well, in other news tonight, a U.S. warship has fired powerful Tomahawk missiles at Bosnian Serb missile sites. The warship fired under NATO command, launching 13 missiles for the first time in the 12-day-old NATO campaign. The missiles were aimed at anti-aircraft missile sites. The damage still unknown. A UN spokesman says NATO declined to use the missiles because of threats, or decided that should be to use the missiles because of threats in the region. In Virginia, a plane carrying parachutists slammed into a house today, killing a dozen people, including a man sitting on his back porch. That plane went down about 40 miles east of Richmond, Virginia. The pilot and 10 parachutists aboard were from a nearby skydiving school. All of them died in the crash.
The O.J. Simpson trial. The defense is getting ready to wrap up its case as the prosecution gears up for rebuttal. Simpson's lawyers were expected to rest their case tomorrow, but that decision could be delayed if the defense asks the judge for new instructions about Detective Mark Furman's testimony. Defense lawyers are also reevaluating their decision not to call Simpson to the stand.
Does O.J. Simpson want to take the stand?
Yes, he always has and still does, yes.
Why?
Because he wants to get up and tell the American people and tell the jury specifically that he's innocent.
If the defense rests tomorrow, the judge says the prosecution's rebuttal case should last about 5 days.
Denver police say more murders have been committed so far this year than in the past 4 to 5 years. A double murder this weekend helped push the numbers over the top. 2 people were killed while waiting in a car outside a friend's house near 47th and Elm Court. That brings this year's total to 69 homicides in Denver. By comparison, there were 54 murders in 1994 and 55 in 1993.
A teenager convicted for his role in the murder of a Colorado state trooper could be released from a detention center soon, even though he's really just starting a 32-year sentence. News 4's Marcella Lee has the story.
November 4th, 1992. State Trooper Lyle Wohlers is shot inside this car after pulling over 2 15-year-old boys on I-70 near Georgetown. The trooper eventually dies. Marcus Fernandez, the teen who pulled the trigger, is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. T.J. White pleads guilty to accessory to murder after the fact and aggravated motor vehicle theft. That's 16 years on each count, but now White's fate could change. TJ White has spent nearly 3 years in the Mount View Youth Services Center. Today, he turns 18, and that means two things. He'll be moved out of this facility to be housed with adults, and his sentence will also be reconsidered.
The judge can do almost anything. He can reduce the number of years served. He can sentence him to community corrections. He can sentence him to boot camp and see how he does, which is a very highly regimented program. He can place him on probation for a number of years.
If placed on probation, White could go to college. He's been accepted to Florida State University and Texas Tech, though FSU may deny White's application now that the school has learned about his criminal past.
The critical thing in his future is a reconsideration. His life is in Judge Ruckrigel's hands, and that is what matters, not whether Florida State changes its mind.
Marcella Lee, News 4.
Robinson says White has been a model inmate. Now they're waiting for a court date and a judge's decision on T.J. White's future.
This week, a former Denver anesthesiologist will become the first doctor in recent Colorado history to face criminal charges in the death of a patient. Thursday, 55-year-old Joseph Verbrugge is scheduled to appear in Denver District Court for a preliminary hearing on charges of reckless manslaughter. Verbrugge is accused of gross negligence in the death of 8-year-old Richard Leonard of Westminster. Verbrugge allegedly fell asleep during a routine ear surgery.
The Colorado AIDS Project is $1 million richer tonight thanks to a large turnout for this year's AIDS Walk Colorado. In all, about 12,000 walkers showed up, among them actress Rosie Perez. Perez says she took part because she once put off visiting a dying friend until it was too late. Many others also walked in memory of a loved one.
I'm walking in memory of my girlfriend's 10-month-old baby died of AIDS in December.
Our own KCNC team also took part in the 10-kilometer walk today.
Well, the big switch among Denver's 3 major network affiliates is now part of television history, the first time it has ever happened in Denver. Most viewers are finding their way among the new program locations, but News 4's Mike Fearberg reports some have discovered things aren't the way they were supposed to be.
The switch means old things removed as well as new ones installed. Here, the last of News 4's satellite links with the NBC network is taken off the station roof. Inside, technicians and engineers work to make the shift seamless and get the new programs on the air. And most viewers said they had no trouble dealing with the changes.
Not really. It was kind of neat. I mean, being the first time it's ever happened.
A couple times I heard about it.
So it's pretty easy to understand?
Real easy to understand. I totally understand it.
Don't tell that to thousands of cable TV viewers, mainly in the rural and mountain towns, though. In some cases, they aren't getting all the Denver stations anymore. In others, the Denver station's positions on the dial were changed so that the network programs would be in the same places they used to be. But all the local programs are not. Exactly the opposite of what Denver viewers are finding.
When I finally found where it was, I got the football on the wrong channel, and then, to boot, the sound was from something completely different.
It's doubtful many viewers took long to find the Broncos game on NBC, now Channel 9. That's a big change, of course. But after the game, one thing didn't change. News 4 was first in the Broncos locker room with the post-game interviews and analysis. Because even after the big switch, News 4 is still the home of the Broncos. I'm Mike Fearberg, News 4.
Now, if you have questions about the switch, we have the answers. News 4's Amy Sporer joins us live now from the Network Switch Hotline Center. Amy?
Hi, Kathy. Even at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, the phones here continue to ring, although much more slowly than they have been. Still, these folks have taken in some 5,600 calls just today. Most of the people who are calling are wondering about where to find their favorite soap operas this week, and they're wondering about Monday night prime time. What will they see before the 10 o'clock news? Well, these phone operators are here 24 hours a day, so even if you wake up at 3 in the morning feeling a little restless because you're not sure where to find the young and the restless tomorrow morning, give them a call. It's at 11 a.m. on News 4, Monday through Friday. The number is on your screen, 1-800-583-5974, no matter what your question, no matter what the hour. Kathy, back to you.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Amy.
We also have a special phone line for the hearing impaired, and that number is 1-800-583-2556. Again, the hotline numbers are staffed 24 hours a day. Of course, one of the most frequently asked questions is about where is this or where is that? Where can it be found? Tomorrow morning, You'll find The Price is Right at 10 a.m. on News 4, followed by The Young and the Restless at 11, as Amy just mentioned, and News 4, of course, at noon. Then at 12:30, The Bold and the Beautiful. As the World Turns airs at 1. After that, it's The Guiding Light at 2, Day and Date at 3, and First News at 4. A lot of soaps there for our air.
Still ahead tonight, we'll tell you about the 47th Annual Emmy Awards.
And 10 of the women who accused Senator Bob Packwood of sexual misconduct speak out for the first time.
Had some heavy rain near DIA and Elizabeth tonight. That'll wind down in the next few hours. Then drier weather is heading this way.
For the first time, Senator Bob Packwood's accusers have come together to share their stories in public. Of course, Packwood announced his resignation on Tuesday after alleged victims detailed sexual misconduct allegations. Details shared tonight on 60 Minutes, aired right here on News 4. 10 women, all saying for years they never knew they had something in common.
We're a group now, but we weren't a group then. We were all by ourselves.
Julie Williamson worked in Bob Packwood's Portland office and says she was assaulted in 1969.
I had my head down, and I was trying to kick him to get away. So he stood on my feet. He pulled my head back by the hair, gives me the big, awful kiss with the tongue. And at the same time, is reaching up under my skirt and trying to pull off my underwear.
The women say there was no recourse.
I had a few options. One was either to put out or to get out. And basically those were the choices because that's the way he was.
On CBS's Face the Nation, Packwood offered a partial apology.
If I did the things that they said I did, am I sorry? Do I apologize? Yes, but it is time to get on and not look back.
He says his drinking made him forgetful. The women say he wasn't always drunk and didn't stop.
He's gone on for 20-some years. Woman after woman after woman.
Packwood's resignation came after a 3-year fight against the allegations, and these 10 women were not alone.
I think that the logical consequence of abuse of power is the loss of that power.
Oregon Senator Bob Packwood will leave his seat on October 1st.
Up next, it looks like summer is not going to give up without a fight.
And that's despite the cool downpour that hit many areas today. Glenn has her forecast coming up next.
Some hail hit hard today in Jefferson County. Marble-sized hail piled up about a half-inch deep near 470. However, rain, not hail, was a more familiar sight for most of us.
Big problem for a lot of people today. A lot of rain out there.
Yeah, I got a call from one of our weather watchers reporting almost several inches of rain down in Elizabeth and filled up some ponds that have not been filled all summer. So some pockets of heavy rain, a lot of it going on at DIA a few minutes ago. Let's go check our conditions right now, and we'll show you where the latest rain is on NextRad in just a second. It's 58 degrees downtown. It is 61 at the airport. The high today was 79. We got enough sunshine to warm things up pretty nicely, and that was up from the low of 47 this morning. Right now, the humidity is at 72% in town. Pressure is at 30.14 and rising. Winds out of the southeast at about 18 miles per hour. NextRad indicates quite a bit of thunderstorm activity down to the south between Colorado Springs and Pueblo, and they've had a lot of rain down there. In fact, they just had a flash, or rather, small stream advisory just canceled at 10 o'clock. But in the meantime, here's the heavier rains near Elizabeth, and then as you look out here towards east, this is the shower activity moving away from DIA at this time, and heavier thunderstorm activity going up towards the Wyoming border. Most of these will start to break down around midnight. Some of them may linger up in the foothills and up in the mountains, but in a couple of hours later in the morning, they will be gone. However, they will be replaced by some fog. Now, let's check in on our satellite, and indeed, a lot of moisture showing up on the current image, and it's mostly in this part of the nation. Look at that. Clouds all the way from border to border. It's clear on the other side of us, but in through Colorado, you can see the heavier coverage right there, although western Colorado looking at clear skies for the most part. We did mention fog will start to build back in here later on this evening and tomorrow morning, so be prepared for that in the morning. It has been chilly in the upper Midwest. We had record lows this morning. reporting in the 30s in parts of Iowa and Michigan. And tonight, we have some frost advisories heading back into the northeast. Clearing skies here in the west, and that's the good news because it looks like drier weather will be heading our way in the next couple of days. And in the meantime, radar indicating that band of activity showing up from parts of New Mexico into Colorado into Wyoming, also in the Carolinas there as well. Forecast for tomorrow, though, shows a cold front starting to work its way in here. That'll keep us a little bit cooler tomorrow. Once that's out of here, temperatures should warm up a few more degrees, more, well, summer-like around here. We do have 2 more weeks of that to go. In the meantime, tonight's lows will be in the 50s in the front range, 30s and 40s for the high country, so it'll be cool, and 50s for the western slope. Highs tomorrow right back into the 70s again, some in the middle 70s, 60s for the mountains, and the upper 70s and low 80s for the west, and we'll put in a few scattered showers for the mountains. Here's my forecast for Denver, and it goes like this for the rest of the night. We'll see some clearing skies late after the storms wind down. 50 degrees for the overnight low. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies for the afternoon, possible showers, high around 78, and then that extended forecast keeps us a little bit cooler on Tuesday as the front moves in, then back to the low 80s for the rest of the weekend. Should be some drier weather heading this way as well, so all in all, not too bad a week.
Okay, doesn't sound too bad. Thanks, Glenn. Up next in sports, it's back to the Broncos for more on the defeat in Dallas.
And a real thriller for the Rockies today. Gary has all the sports next.
Gary Miller joining us now with sports. Broncos just really couldn't pull it through with the Cowboys. I guess.
No, Dallas is pretty darn good when you come right down to it. Pretty good weekend for the Cowboys when you think about it. First they signed Dion, then they went out and took care of the Cowboys. As they say in Dallas, how about them Cowboys? Broncos didn't play badly, but they didn't play nearly well enough to stay with Dallas. They lose for the first time, 31-21. Let's pick it up in the second quarter. There is no score, but Elway's pass deflected, intercepted by Larry Brown. Cowboys threatening deep in Broncos territory. It didn't take them long. Aikman off the little play-action fake to Darryl Johnston. 7-0 Dallas. Next time they got it, Aikman rolls right. He has literally all day. Shane Jarnett couldn't quite get him, and Aikman goes up and over a touchdown, 14-0. Broncos, though, come back with a 69-yard drive in 10 plays. It's late in the half. Rookie Terrell Davis off on a 22-yard run to the 31-yard line. They're in business. And then an Elway milestone, his 200th career touchdown pass to Anthony Miller. Quite a day for Miller. As the Broncos get a touchdown, they trail 14-7 at the half. In the third, it's Elway and Miller again. Anthony looked pretty good today. This a 59-yard connection. Anthony caught 3 touchdown passes. Broncos down just 21-14, but Dallas would bounce back early in the fourth. Emmitt Smith would put it away. He had 114 yards rushing. He's got a touchdown. Dallas wins it 31-21. Les with more on the Broncos and Cowboys from Dallas.
Last week, we talked about Mike Shanahan's first win as the Broncos head coach. This week, we're talking about his first loss as the Broncos head coach. They didn't look very good against the Dallas Cowboys here in Dallas. Then again, Cowboys have a way of making you look not very good.
And they have very good offense, they have a great defense, and they were very productive on special teams. So they've got all 3 components working really well early in the season, and they played us well today.
We had them on the ropes. We had them thinking about what we were going to do quite a bit in the first half and early in the third quarter. And then the breaks went their way, and then they just turned the dogs loose, and they just came after us.
You know, we played hard, and I think the biggest thing, if we would have played consistent, I think it would have been a different outcome.
You got to fight your rear end off, and sometimes that's going to happen. It's the way you respond, the way you rebound, and I'm confident in this football team we will rebound.
This makes the Broncos 1-1, but they have a chance to right the ship next week at home when the Washington Redskins come to town. From Dallas, Les Shapiro, News 4 Sports.
Chargers are the defending AFC champions, but the season's been a struggle for them so far. Seattle at Jack Murphy today, and Rick Meyer will look for a pretty good target. Former Buff, the rookie Christian Fourier, the tight end's got a touchdown and a 7-7 tie. Seattle up 10-7 in the fourth, but the Chargers able to make the big play. Humphreys to Ronnie Harmon, that's the winner. Chargers do win 14-10. They're 1-1. NFL board, the Raiders are 2-0 following their win at Washington. Giants blow a 17-3 lead, lose in overtime at Kansas City. It was San Diego beating Seattle, as we mentioned. Miami wins at New England. Buffalo over Carolina. Cincinnati is 2-0, would you believe? They beat Jacksonville. Pittsburgh's first win. They beat Houston. It was Cleveland downing Tampa Bay in overtime. Indianapolis beat the Jets. San Francisco over Atlanta. St. Louis beat New Orleans. Minnesota doubled up on Detroit, and Arizona tonight beat Philly. Will make it Philly beat Arizona 31-19. As we mentioned earlier in the news, Nebraska star Lawrence Phillips thrown off the team tonight by Coach Tom Osborne. Phillips scored 4 touchdowns in Nebraska's rout of Michigan State yesterday, but he was arrested last night for allegedly assaulting his ex-girlfriend. The woman was not seriously hurt. Lawrence Phillips, one of Nebraska's brightest stars on the field, has apparently played his last game for the Huskers. We have much more on the Broncos coming up on Sports Extra. Jeff Campbell will join me. Joe Girardi and I will talk Rockies baseball, quite a pennant race. And Avalanche coach Mark Crawford, goalie Stephane Facette will be here too. A busy Sports Extra tonight at 11:05. We've got more sports coming up, including the Rockies trying to sweep the Reds away. Curtis Laskanik certainly made it interesting. The Rockies reliever left 50,000 fans with pounding hearts at Coors Field today, but it was all worth it. Rockies swept the Reds away. Rockies held on, beating Cincinnati 5-4, maintaining that big 1 percentage point lead over the Dodgers in the tight NL West race. Brett Saberhagen started after a stint on the DL, got a little defensive help on this play. Eric Young goes out, gets his glove on it, gets his hand on it, grabbed that ball, held on. Great play by EY. Rockies down 2-1 in the 5th. They score 3-2 on Dante's 35th homer of the year. It's 4-2. 4-all in the 7th. Larry Walker made the play of the day. A surprise bunt to score EY. Rockies had the lead in the 9th. Nervous time. Laskanik, though, danced away from a Reds rally in the 8th. Will escape again. Bases loaded, 2 away. Duncan hit it hard, but right at Larry Walker. Rockies survive 5-4.
I think everybody's feeling it. I think the fans are feeling it. And today was very exciting. I think the crowd was getting into it. Everybody's on the edge of their seat all the way through the last pitch. And sitting in here watching Curtis, I don't think I have too many fingernails left.
Still a virtual tie in the West. L.A. came from behind to beat Pittsburgh 5-4. Atlanta's in town tomorrow night. All the scores coming up. National League, San Francisco over Chicago. Florida beat the Braves tonight. Houston and New York winners in the American League. Cleveland beat Baltimore in 11. Detroit over Toronto. With Chicago beating Oakland. Texas 5-2 over Milwaukee. Minnesota in extra innings beat California. Seattle over Kansas City. And New York beat Boston. Pete Sampras beat Andre Agassi for the men's title at the U.S. Open. Rick Neuheisel show is next. Stick around. The coach sings tonight.
Oh, no.
It's true.
Okay, thanks, Gare. Up next, the 47th Annual Emmy Awards.
Some of the winners still ahead.
In the next couple of days, you may find yourself channel surfing in search of your favorite programs because of the big switch. Well, don't forget, you can call the Network Switch hotline if you have questions, and that number is 1-800-583-5974.
Finally tonight, CBS picked up 19 prestigious awards at the 47th Annual Emmys.
And the Emmy goes to Christine Baranski.
Aha, Christine Baranski from the show Sybil won Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. Candice Bergen was named Best Actress for her role on Murphy Brown.
And Ray Walston, who plays the cantankerous judge on picket fences, won for supporting actor in a drama series. And all CBS had 91 nominations, NBC 96, HBO 50, ABC 42.
Good job, CBS. That's News 4. Thanks for joining us this weekend.
Have a good night, everybody.
Closed captioning for this broadcast has been brought to you by News 4 and First Bank.